The only thing better than grinding all night for your side hustle is your roommate picking you up with Mickey D's breakfast. The perfect pickup deal.
There's a deal for every morning at McDonald's.
Right now, taste breakfast perfection when you get a warm and savory sausage McMuffin with egg for just $2.50. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with combo meal.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bedpost Podcast. I, of course, am your host, Erin Pym, and what I like to do here on the pod is bring fun and sexy guests into the studio to have in-depth conversations surrounding sex and sexuality. Today, I'm very excited to talk to one of my favorite Twitter follows ever. There's no lie. There is no lie. Where's the lie? Please welcome to the mic, everybody, the golden glamazon herself, Sydney Devereaux. Hi, Sydney.
Hi. Hello. Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, you're so sweet.
Oh, it's so true. I'm like, you're one of the people that I just retweet, like, very often. Because gorgeous content, like, really gorgeous content.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I am a bit of an aestheticist, I think is the word. Really into how things look in the world.
Yes, and that's so true. Like, the vibe I get from your content is just like beauty, you know? Just like everything is you're obviously beautiful as a person, inside and out. But like, yeah, the aesthetics of your content, beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Where's that come
a long
from?
Time. Oh Lord, kind of a little bit of everything. I mean, I grew up wanting to be an artist ever since I was a little kid, and wanting to be an entertainer. And then, I started modeling pretty young, and then I was a suicide girl. It's kind of,
oh my God, that got
like
me on
old
the goth
school.
track. Yes. Oh yes,
Yes.
I know exactly. Like that was my earliest porn, I think. Like good porn, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to be a suicide girl before I was even legal to be a suicide girl, and waited.
Yeah.
I joined as soon as I was 18. Started putting in, different sets and all of that stuff. You know how they used to do it. I don't know how they do it now. I haven't been on there in quite a long time, but I
That's so
went
cool. I just have to
live
say.
in 2005. It was a very long time ago.
But
it's like they did so much with photography during that period of time. It was before social media really blew up. And so there was a lot of photographers taking really incredible risks with naked ladies. And that made me really happy to see. And I was already really inspired from pinup, and through pinup on Suicide Girls and then my own interest in pinup, that's how I got into the burlesque thing. It was actually not the other way around. So I had always been, or I have been, a naked lady in some form online since I was legal until now.
I have so many questions. That's amazing. So, okay, how did one, we don't know how they do it nowadays, you just mentioned, but how did one back in the day, 2005-ish, circa 2005, how did one become a suicide girl?
Well, so I think it took me at least a year, maybe a little bit longer, to become a suicide girl. But back then you would shoot with whoever. I think my first photographer was my then boyfriend, shooting in our living room.
Yeah.
I was, just very lo-fi. And then you submit those sets, and then Suicide Girls will tell you whether they would take it or not. So it was very kind of a closed practice, right? Like there was no online review or anything like that. It was like I think I printed up these photos and sent them
Hard
away.
copy. Yeah.
Yeah, man. and then just, cross my fingers. And, I wasn't accepted then. And then I started shooting with their staff photographers. So there was some really amazing photographers that I got to shoot with, including London, who I hope is still shooting because she was just so wonderful. And through that, I was able to get onto the site. But unfortunately, it's like the punk and goth, like, pinup girl scene was very closed to Black women and women of color. And so, like, even though I had some tattoos, and by the way, they weren't like great tattoos, so it wasn't like
they were bad tattoos.
I mean, they weren't. I wasn't like killing it back then. But I was definitely alt, and I was definitely, pinup. But it was still harder for me. I didn't gain like really any traction or popularity from being a pretty girl on that site. And like every part of any of my popularity back then, I mean, it was a much smaller site back then, and there was, not as many women models. I think I was like number 200 or something. There's like thousands now. Like it was lower on the ranks back then. But all of my popularity or any of my fan base just came from like me being weird on the internet. Like me
you
talking
being yourself.
back and me interacting with people. And that's what I really appreciated about that site in particular. And it was fun to be a suicide girl. Like, I got to go to events. Like I got to show up and be a suicide girl at like raves and stuff.
That's pretty cool. That's cool.
Right? And they're like, oh yeah, you just stand around and you give away this merch and you're like a suicide girl at a rave. And I'm like, great, this is wonderful.
As far as jobs go,
good.
Pretty cool job.
Yeah, you get hired to be like, a weird go-go girl somewhere. You go to an event and you would go to like regional events and meet people. And it was a really, pre actual social media, because this was before, it was like right around the time MySpace happened,
yes.
right? Like,
Yeah. Like, you had to go to a website. To see the pictures and to go on the website and interact and do all that stuff. It was just a website.
Yeah, it was just a website, and this was one of those first terrifying articles about like, don't meet the people that are online, they'll kidnap and murder you, and so I was meeting people from groups. Like we would have like barbecues and we would meet up for pool or bowling. Or how I got to go and see a burlesque show was there was a whole big group of us that went to a burlesque show. So it was a really amazing time. I wish I would have gotten to create more than I did during that period of time, but I can't really be mad. Yeah.
Still pretty fucking cool experience. Just to say it was a suicide girl, like amazing.
In the old school one. By the way.
An
I'm
OG.
Hold that OG. Yeah, I'm holding that OG card.
I will. Yes, take it. I'll wear it with pride. Put it on a pin. Keep it on the front of your shirt. Love it.
Indeed.
Amazing. So so you said you had kind of pinup inspirations, right? Mm-hmm. Can you tell me who were some of your favorite pinups or pinup artists?
Yeah, I mean, it was very much everybody's entry as Betty Page, right? Or
of
a lot
course.
of people's entry as Betty Page. And then this was, so when I first started getting into this was like right at the beginning of YouTube. Like just so at the very, very beginning of YouTube. And so there wasn't a lot, right? And every video that had like pinup girls or that kind of like was on the fetish tip.
Yes.
Because that's where all of those videos came from, was like Something Weird videos, which was an incredible resource. And I hope that they're still around. But so you would be able to like basically, unfortunately, see a lot of nameless models.
This is
so
true.
Many nameless models, and be able to just kind of take in those videos and everything. And so, from there, I was just really intrigued by the idea of getting to wear lingerie for myself and loving, stockings and corsets and, garters.
High-waisted things. High-waisted
and extremely
panties.
high shoes. Like, I really, really love high
those
heels.
fetish
and that
shoes.
wasn't, oh my gosh. Well, and just high heels in general. Like, I'm extremely tall. And so, like, dealing with my height has always been a thing. And getting to enter this world meant that I got to unabashedly wear those heels, right?
Yes.
That was, like, welcome and absolutely necessary for the look. And no one thought anything twice of it. Now, if I go and wear, 6-inch heels down to, dinner with my husband,
you might get a couple
like,
looks.
What is happening? Yeah, because then I'm 6'8".
Wow. Yep. That is tall. Yeah.
It's a lot.
You're
I know it's a
noticeable at
lot.
that point.
I mean, I'm noticeable regardless. So, it's like 6'2" and, half shaved head. Like, it's a lot for some people.
And just gorgeous. I'm sure people are like, who is that?
Well, with the pandemic, it's been interesting because, it's like most of my face is covered. I'm just like a faceless,
Yep.
half shaved head, black lady walking around. It's been fascinating.
Yeah, it's funny. I get both of like half, I'd say it's kind of divided like about 50-50 where some people, that does not stop people from catcalling you. It's like you literally can't even see my face. Doesn't matter,
You're just horny.
Yeah, like any person just walking, you will be like, hey, how are you doing? What you're beautiful. Hey, like, okay.
You're like, oh, you're just looking at the... What are you looking at here,
what are
sir?
you
like,
seeing?
What's going on? Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, I've definitely experienced, like, I love the anonymity of going out and even people maybe that I kind of see around that I'd rather not engage with, maybe just on that day, I'd rather not be social, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
I cannot, like, they would probably not, I mean, I have blue hair, so there's that recognizable feature.
Right,
but,
you can't sneak into a room either.
But in general, I can kind of be a little more anonymous with a mask on. Toronto is very incestuous, so you just, when you're out, you see every person that you don't want to see on that day.
That's fair.
So I felt I will definitely keep wearing a mask, in certain places for that reason. It's kind of nice. Little shield.
Yeah. Yes, it's a shield. I definitely have always, growing up wanted an invisibility cloak. And so this pandemic has kind of offered that in a tiny way.
Yeah. In some
like,
little way.
This is what it's like. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I was definitely a person that, big Betty Page fan. I think that's that's the most common entry point you mentioned. Like, everybody just loves Betty, right?
That's
like
the gateway drug.
Yeah, anyone that's into this aesthetic, let's say that way, they're going to be like, yeah, started with Betty Page, 100%.
And then you can find Bunny Yeager photography, right?
Uh-huh.
And then all of the, and then you go into cult classics. So you find, Tura Satana and, all of these really babely babes that were just, too sexy to be mainstream babes. And I loved that so much. They were just slightly more dangerous than society was going to allow at that time.
Yeah, their waists were slightly smaller, their hips were slightly bigger,
and their boobs were so much bigger.
Quite a lot larger.
Oh my God, just magic. Just and their
amazing.
hair. Oh my gosh, all of it.
I was a huge Gil Elfgren fan as far as artists, pinup artists, drawings, originally pre-wartime, but became kind of more mainstream wartime. Pinup drawings was where I was at young. So that was
Irving Klaw was the first artist that gave me feelings.
Yes, another fantastic. Yeah, there are so many, but I think, there's something very cute about Elfgren's that hit that. It's kind of funny that this is kind of, it's not that funny. Let me say it first. It hit that non-con vibe of oops, I didn't mean to have my skirt blown up, and somebody saw, and I didn't, necessarily mean to do that or want them to see, but they did. You know what I mean? It's that non-con vibe. Oh no, oopsie. Oh gosh,
Super cheeky, yeah.
Very cheeky, so that vibe that, is not funny for obvious reasons, because consent is is not a funny topic. And also, it's just, I guess a common kind of eroticism, because it follows that heteronormative kind of patriarchal narrative, But that was something so deeply resonated to me that it was that self-awareness of the oops moments.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And some of the Elfgren portraits were they're absurd things happening, that you accidentally see their panties. You know what I mean? like I'm picturing the one where one skirt was caught in an elevator and the elevator starts going up and she's like, oh no. I'm like, how? Okay, now she clearly was so self-aware and definitely did that on purpose, because how on earth would you otherwise get your skirt caught in an elevator?
Like grabbing your underwear, waiting till the door closes, looking around.
Yeah. Oh, it's the perfect moment. Okay, press a button. You know, is there a friend helping you set up this? Yeah, like. That's the only way I can picture these situations actually happening.
What a con artist, right?
Yeah, like pinup GF, like aider and a better BF. You know, with these situations.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that the artist that also would like suggestively draw a lot of like suggestive fruit and like baguettes and stuff, like kind of like phallic food?
Oh,
To
certainly.
go along with it. Yeah.
Yes. Lots of metaphoric imagery in these portraits. Yeah. Posed with a lot of, you know, very cheeky, as you said before, kind of themes, right? So, yeah, I don't know. And I mean, I think that really influenced like me going into professional domination and trying to kind of figure out like, I know I have kind of broad tastes as far as aesthetic goes, like for fetish wear and stuff like that. But I think I kind of went back to those roots of like these pin-up-y roots to be like, okay, what aesthetics do I want to kind of embrace in my lady prim persona? You know what I mean? So did you kind of find it? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say also there's just like it between like the 40s, because, you know, obviously pinup's been happening for a very long time. It's very old. You can go back in time to look at photographed erotica, you know, back to the 1800s. And like you can kind of go out by time and look at the different silhouettes. And that's what I always really like to do, and what informed me in at least my burlesque and also some of my more like pinup photography is like these shapes. Like I really love that hourglass shape, and it's because I'm not really built like an hourglass to begin with. Like I'm an athletic, tall person, and so whenever I can try to exaggerate certain things, then I choose to do that, because I really just love that shape is just so iconic. It like, for me, it screams power.
Yes.
For some reason, just like those curves, it's just like you're, you know, navigating the world with like a Coke bottle full of power. You're just caffeinated body, you know?
Yeah.
So
You're
that's
that,
how I
like,
kind of look at it all.
Yeah, that like sand in the hourglass, just bomb.
Well, and then it, you know, these shapes like go through time, and so, but you know, besides that like kind of pinup look, which was like my earliest love, like then, you know, as I got older, I started to look at all of these different shapes. Like I really loved like the bodies in the 70s, because they were like extremely natural, and it's like very, like if you go and look at, you know, Playboy in the 70s, like there's a very specific shape of breast, which is just fascinating to me. Like, were they just growing them that way? Like, how did this?
I know.
Not like that now.
Because isn't that funny? Like, you know, even going back to like pinup-y, obviously more of a cone kind of bullet shape was in style. So isn't that funny that like the shape of breasts are trendy? That's like...
It's wild, you know? And then the 80s is what has mostly continued to stick with me, because the 80s brought in the shapes of the 40s, like the kind of that hourglassy shape, but it was a little bit more severe, you know?
Shoulder.
You definitely have, shoulders, red, like super red lips. Like they weren't even trying to be subtle. They were just
not
saying,
even
like,
a bit.
Fuck,
huge hair. Yeah. Like
and
purple and blue
nails.
eyeshadow. Yeah, long ass nails. Yes, totally.
Like just absolutely can't do shit with your day nails. Like
no.
Like useless day.
Useless
nails.
hands. Yeah.
Oh, just serve me hands. I love that look. So the 80s is like where it, like I feel like all of the things that I really love kind of culminated and like made themselves into something that I'm always, whenever I'm looking to like create a look, I'm like, oh, just a hint of that, you know.
Just a
unless
little
I'm doing
80s.
unless I'm doing like a really, you know, traditional pinup thing, which is always fun to do every once in a while. But like if I'm doing it all the time, I get sick of it, because I'm just like, there's only so many oopsie faces I can conjure.
Yeah, only so many elevators to be caught in skirts, to be
Exactly.
found. But yeah, that's
Exactly.
interesting about the 80s. I think it's like also adding that edge to this kind of classic, right? Like that kind of rock and roll edge, right? Like
Oh my
hair,
God.
hair metal kind of an edge to everything.
Yes.
Those
Yes.
glam rock vibes to a pinup. Add those two
So
together,
gorgeous.
fucking genius.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, rock and roll, like for women and like everything that they've used in fashion in
Yep.
order to also, push forward their careers is just iconic in every single sense of the word. So, big
And
into that
hey,
as
a
well.
lot of those aesthetics, like especially, and continuing after the 80s to today, like a lot of those aesthetics come from sex workers.
Yes,
That
all
a
of
lot of
it.
musicians, I'll go so far to say all of it. Yes. From exactly like the hair to the nails to the makeup to the figures, like the shapes, the body.
Super low cut tops, backless things, like everything that's
Yes.
like that hint of like, wouldn't you, don't you wanna?
Wouldn't you? Would you though? Yeah.
Do
and
you
then
wanna
stuff
touch?
like fur and like those expensive elements of like the
Tactile.
yes, yeah, exactly. Like textures and stuff like that. It's so interesting, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, there's no other reason for, silk or fur to be interesting except for the fact that it makes people want to touch you.
Yes, and how it
mean,
feels
besides
on
you
your
touch yourself.
body. Yeah,
Exactly.
When I think about you, I do that. Yes, I touch myself.
Exactly.
It's a famous lyric. Don't know if you're familiar. But like, yeah, wearing
I
silk.
used to dance to
It's-
that song.
Okay, tell me some
time
of your
ago.
songs. Tell me some of your songs, because I'm a burlesque dancer as well. I have quite a large dance background from when I was very little.
Oh, that's
and,
awesome.
And when I was older, also got into burlesque and taught like burlesque
Yeah.
and lap dancing and all that kind of
Yes,
sensual types of
yes.
dance. Right. Started teaching later, so I'm interested. What are some of your songs? What's your style? Tell me about it.
I would say mostly rock and roll. I started
Nice.
in kind of like the very first song I ever danced to was Ray Charles' Mary Ann. Which was
Amazing.
in lingerie. It was like a lingerie mambo. And it was very, it was back in 2005. So, no one can judge me.
I'm not judging. It's fantastic.
And then I went kind of industrial and, unfortunately don't like mentioning his name necessarily now because I don't dance to his stuff anymore, but Marilyn Manson.
Sure,
I
yeah.
used Tainted Love. I did a nurse act in vinyl back in the day. That was really fun.
Yeah, my PVC nurse coat got a lot of use.
Yes, yeah.
Every
I danced
day.
to Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah, Get Off, which is really fun. And then mostly rock and roll. So, like, I do a lot of Zeppelin. Like, I'm really seriously into Zeppelin and AC/DC. A bit of
Okay,
Black
I'm
Sabbath.
understanding. Okay, I'm understanding a bit. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, it's being the performer that dances to those things and looks like I do is always kind of interesting for people to first understand, which is funny because, Black people created rock and roll.
Yes.
However,
Co-opted by white people. Yeah.
yeah, but however, a lot of people don't necessarily remember or remember that or take into account that there's a lot of Black folks that are still into that stuff. And so it's been a joy to be able to dance to those things and to be able to also give some of those things a little bit of like a classic flair to them. So one of my favorite songs, which was classically done, it was actually written by a Black man before Zeppelin ever did it, was You Shook Me. And it's just incredible, and Robert Plant's voice on it is insane. And, I look like a old school showgirl, it's the full gown and corset and the whole thing. But, big wild hair and hair flips and all that stuff. And it's fun. It's really fun to be able to like do, old school movement with not contemporary, but rock music.
Contemporary enough,
Ish, contemporary-ish music. And, I'm open. I consider myself as a performer, I haven't danced on a live stage since 2019.
Yeah.
So, it's pandemic vibes, right? But
Yeah. Sad.
I consider myself open to pretty much any type of music. So long as I'm obsessed with the piece of music, then I want to do something with it, you know, and even if it's not necessarily like movement, you know, one of my favorite things that I ever created was it's like performance art piece where I have a drink with the audience to Bill Withers, Use Me Up. To Use Me Up by Bill Withers. And, you know, I just kind of sit there and I have a drink with the audience and I, you know, take out ice and I put it all over the place and I shove it inside myself and it's great, you know?
So when you say inside yourself.
Yeah.
Love it.
Like, why not? You know,
a bit of temperature play, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Make people think about, you know, how comfortable can you be while this person is doing something very slow and intimate for you, you know, and inviting you to interact with that, you know, with your eyes. Like, don't look away.
Yes, don't you dare look away. Yes.
This is happening to you.
It's happening right here, right now in this room.
You showed up. You consented. Let's do this.
You're in the front row. I will interact with you. I will look directly in your eyes. I don't do that thing where I kind of look over top of everyone. I'm looking at
Oh, no. We eye fuck in this house.
Yes, we only eye fuck in this house. I think that's the most important part of burlesque. Like, to eye fuck or to... if you're not, you know, there yet, or just that's not something that you feel comfortable doing or whatever, to make it look like you're eye fucking someone.
It's a constant direction of energy, right? So, you know, for me, I think eye contact is one of the most important parts of that, whether you are creating an eye contact moment with the entire audience or with one person in the audience, which invites everybody else to interact with that interaction, is really important. And, you know, I didn't do any of these, you know, online shows over
I didn't really either. I did like two, I think, but I was like,
I just couldn't do it.
It's not the same. Yeah.
I just, that push and pull of energy is so deeply important. And, you know, especially with dance, especially with tease, you know, and there's some ways in which I've been able to create that, like in my own videos for like my OnlyFans stuff and my Patreon stuff, is like, but that's also through editing, right? Yeah. That's like a different beast. It's a completely different beast, a very painful, arduous
beast.
Beautiful beast.
Very, very beastly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel you. I think that's the energy that you want to kind of have on stage when you're doing it. It's the interaction is the fun part of it, is the interesting part of it. It's not about dance so much. It's not about the costumes so much. It can be about, I mean, both of those parts are lovely parts of it. But I think the essence, like the core, the root of it is being in the room together and creating a moment, you know, out of this kind of, these interactions, these eye contact, this eye flirting, eye fucking, all of that kind of.
Absolutely. That's you're there to rile people up and then send them on the way home, you know?
Yeah, all hot and bothered. Yeah, exactly. Only seeing 90% of your breast.
Oh, Lord. Sometimes 92%.
Sometimes.
And sometimes all of it, depending on how warm you get in the audience and, you know, pasties just fly off.
Oh, I've been there. Like, I mean, yes, not only malfunctions with the pasties just because you're sweating in a hot room, and maybe you didn't wipe off your moisturizer first before applying them that day. You know, maybe
sometimes
you
nipples
didn't
just reject them. They're just like, no, not today.
Goodbye. Yes, goodbye. No. Depending, maybe it was a particularly heavy tassel that...
You know? Oh my God.
But also I've had the moments where I've just kind of, like, specifically where it's
ripped him off.
Yeah, where it's allowed. Like, you know, we have a sex club and I would do burlesque at a sex club. So there are many, many times where I would have pasties and plan to just do the regular burlesque thing, but end up just going full Monty for whatever reason, you know. I was in the moment, and maybe it was the audience participation element that I brought the person up. They were like, it's my birthday. And I'm like, well, I have to get my birthday soup for you then. Like, it just makes sense. How could I not? What an insult if I...
Well, and, full nudity is a real part of our burlesque history, regardless of whether people want to decide that doesn't exist. Like, the lore that the first real burlesque act happened because someone's strap broke, so there's always been this element of like, oh, it's a little bit more than we came paying for, but we're here for it.
Yeah. And it's exciting because it's kind of like, was I supposed to?
Like, merkin culture back in the beginning burlesque days was like a real thing, and all of the cops would come, and so they would put the lights so they wouldn't flash that time, like, yeah, because they were all doing these flashing things, like right before the end of their act, they would flash their bush, which was really a merkin because there were ladies, of course, yes, I can't show my real bush, but I can certainly show a replica of my bush just on top. Yes, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
I love that. I definitely have because I generally have blue or green hair, so I've got a couple numbers where I've made a blue merkin. Of course, and the reveal is the blue merkin, and it's, maybe I've got a blue, like Fuzzy and Blue, which is a Sesame Street song. I would perform to that quite often, and the final reveal, of course, would be the blue merkin.
Excellent.
Yeah.
My burlesque, the things you can do with costuming is just absolutely insane.
Totally. I think my style, like, for burlesque is, it's always a bit silly. So I'll be the person that's like, doing an alien burlesque routine, and so I'll wear the full, green suit, and then I'll just I'll sew on the pasties on the green suit and a green merkin on the green suit, and nice. I'll eventually take off all the clothes, and you just get this weird green head to toe suit, like, the ones that zip up the back, like it's covering your face, everything.
The Zentai suits.
Yeah. But I've sewn on all the little
excellent
bits. Yes, of course.
Leave your audience going, well, yes.
Well, okay.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I have a big green alien head too, obviously. I mean,
so good.
You gotta bring the theater, Let's take a moment to talk about our lovely sponsors, shall we? First of all, Oasis Aqua Lounge is a water-themed sex club located right here in Toronto at 231 Mutual Street. Oasis is inclusive of all genders and orientations and is shame-free when it comes to pleasure and play. Check them out at their website, oasisaqualounge.com. Unicorn Collaborators is the local leather business of two queer unicorns. They specialize in luxurious and colorful harnesses for all body types, and even craft non-conventional ones for your thigh, fist, or foot. Check them out at their Etsy shop under Unicorn Collaborators. Lovecrafters Toys is a non-gendered fantasy sex toy line that makes weird and wonderful dildos in the shape of tentacles, unicorn horns, mermaid tails, and more. Their high-quality silicone is hand-poured right here in Toronto. Check out their Etsy shop at Lovecrafters Toys. ComeAsYouAre.com is a trans-owned, trans-operated sex shop that also happens to be feminist and anti-capitalist. They carry only the best sex toys and want to give you the best price possible. Next time, use the coupon code BEDPOST, that's BEDPOST, when checking out at ComeAsYouAre.com. So are you eager to return to, big houses full of people screaming your name and hooting and hollering?
I don't know yet.
I know, me too. Oh, I feel that. Thank you for saying that. I feel that.
I mean, I've had, a lot happen in the last 3 years of my life where I've definitely entered a space where I'm trying to decide where I want to be as an entertainer, if I want to be there as an entertainer, and what my function is as as someone who is offering something to society.
Yeah.
I've been in an artist existential crisis since well before the pandemic started. And then when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, it's just, I guess we'll just live here now.
Yeah, this is just my reality now. This is every day.
Yeah.
Contemplating
so
my
there's
existence.
a lot of investigations, and around obviously having to create in a vacuum, during this period of time. There's been a lot of, you don't want to, who wants to put on a full face and fuck yourself in front of a camera when, the world is dying outside, and you have to pretend like it's super great, or maybe you wait to shoot when you're in a better mood that day, or, but it's such a challenge because I love creating things. I love creating, videos and photo shoots and being able to do all the editing, and all of that is really enjoyable for me. But during this period of time, it's been a challenge because of what's happening in the world. And,
yes.
you try to disassociate or create boxes in which you're like, okay, that doesn't exist right now. For right now, I'm just a hot, fun girl playing with her boobs.
Yeah, I'm a golden
glamazon. We can go back to that later.
Yeah. Yeah. Just give me 10 minutes where I could just bang this custom vid out.
Exactly.
Real quick.
Exactly.
No, I totally feel you. My thing that I sometimes get in a funk of just not wanting to create, is specifically in the genre that I'm in, like the femdom genre, is this battle between the fantasy of femdom versus the reality of it. Because the fantasy of femdom is men just treat me the same as any other woman or sex worker or whoever, so disrespectfully, just to generalize it, and just to give them this femdom fantasy, say a custom video or something like that. But outside that, I'm not really living this reality of femdom where people are, treating me in the way that perhaps that I would like, and respecting my boundaries and all this type of things. And, I got into this particular part of sex work because I wanted to, I didn't want to be disrespected, and I wanted...
You wanted to experience those good things.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, exactly. And in some ways I do. With some clients I do. Certainly with regulars, the only way someone's going to become my regular is if they do. But you still, the most of your interactions as a, dominant sex worker, you're still not the, dominant one in the relationship. When it's a man, when it's a cis white man, purchasing your content or trying to get a session with you or whatever. So it's kind of that push and pull of sometimes it really feels like I'm not living my femdom dreams.
I could dig that. I understand that.
And I'm just some days I'm just men,
Lord.
And I can't.
Yeah. I investigated at one point, maybe trying to inch my way into being a dom.
Yeah.
And then I realized that is just, despite everybody's, especially men's assumptions that I am a dom, that's mostly how men come to my feed, right? They're like,
yes,
oh, you're a dom.
Yes.
Let me serve you.
Okay, yes, please talk about this, because I think it's related to the tall thing,
Yeah, and I'm not, I'm actually a sub.
Yeah.
A bratty one at that. And
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's interesting because, a lot of men will come to my feed expecting this instead, or making, I think you should be doing femdom work or findom work, and I'm like, no, that's not who I am. And some of them will end up following my content either on OnlyFans or Patreon for a while, and some of them will stay and they're like, you just tick my boxes in this other way, and I'm like, great, because I'm not gonna decide to tiptoe into a scene where there's so many people that are way more experienced than I am.
Yeah, but
I would never.
Everybody starts somewhere. There's that.
Oh no, for
but
sure.
I understand what you're saying, though. Yeah.
It's also just the desire to, it's
of course.
I've been, in my in-person back in the day sex work that I've done, I've been a service top, and it's very hilarious for me. I know how to do a lot of these things, but I'm just oh sure, I'll spank you. I'm just Like, if that's what you want, I'm like, okay. And I just turned to a giant dork. And so it's,
I like that.
and like, and I guess if there's like a giggling, super sarcastic bratty dom that like just doesn't give a shit about being serious ever, then I could probably do that for somebody if they paid me well enough.
You kind of just described my aesthetic as a dom, but
But I found that a lot of people make this assumption about me, and it is because I'm tall, it is because I lift, it is because I'm black, and it is because I'm a black, tall, tattooed, semi-muscular woman, that they're just saying, oh well, she's gonna want to crush me with her thighs. And I'm like, no, I just want you to tell me I'm a really, really good girl because I did all my chores today.
Can't I just have that?
Like, why can't I? So it's been this, it's this balance between yelling at men on the internet. No, I'm not that, because I don't want anyone to think that I have any issue with that work, because I think it's fucking rad. And in fact, one of my most favorite humans on this earth is a dom. And at any given time, if she were like, come here and, be my sub today or forever, I'd be like, yes, you got me. Yeah. Easy.
When can I book the plane ticket?
Seriously, this pandemic has been the worst.
Yeah.
The worst for that, So, but I also just know from I had this beautiful experience of being able to be a dolly for Lady Wildfire.
I don't know her. I don't know them.
She's like super old school. I think she started in the 80s.
Okay.
She did a whole bunch of really amazing like fetish films in the 90s and the early aughts. And I got to go to a dungeon with Sweet Pea, my friend who is also a dom, and has been training under Lady Wildfire. And it was I've never been a dolly before. I've never been dressed up like that before. It was so amazing. And she was I've never seen a dungeon like this. Like that's her thing. She likes to dress people up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love people dressing me up. Like, it turns out that that's really fun for me.
Love it. I love dollification. Yeah, on either side of the slash, actually. I love, like, bimbofication, dollification, feminization. Yeah. Like, even for me, who's cis female, like, I love somebody, because I don't really in my daily life, I'm not a super feminine girl. Like, I don't do really pretty silhouettes. I'm not a huge fan of makeup in my personal life. So it's fun to dress up like a girl, for me too, for people to put me in that. And especially if you're like, oh my God, like recently we replicated that meme unintentionally. I was playing with a female top dom. She's at this point, she's pretty much my mommy dommy. But she did that meme where she got on top of me and did my makeup that way while I was lying down on my back. Yeah. And I was like, great. Oh my God, am I living my best life?
You were living the femme life in that moment.
I think I am.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. I mean, it's so wonderful to be able to have those experiences.
Yeah. This is interesting, though, how you're talking about how people assume that you are dominant. I think, actually, we mentioned Vidra, Miss Vidra, pre-recording, I think we did.
Yes.
That recently she asked me how tall I was. I think I posted a picture where I looked kind of more accurately my petite height. And she was like, wait, how tall are you? And I was like, oh, I'm only 5'3". And she was like, what? She assumed that I was like, up near like 5'10", or like I was a tall person. I was like, hey, and then I felt proud that I gave off like tall person energy. You know what I mean? But then I was like, oh, wait, what's that about? You know what I mean? And like that I would feel more powerful somehow if I was taller. And I was like, ooh, what's that? Where's that come from? And I was like, I think, yeah. And I'm like, ooh, I think that's because, the script. There you go. The heteronormative script that men are big and tall and strong and they're dominant inherently. And I'm like, oh, no. I don't want to like perpetuate that. I'm like, I'm a petite dom and I'm subverting the narrative, which to me is what's important in kink and in, facilitating
Yes.
fetish work and whatnot. So I'm like, no, yeah, I need to kind of rethink how I, and
Well,
why.
there's been sociological, yeah, there we go, studies about people. It's a very long word.
You did it.
It is very early in the week, but they've done studies about how people assign power.
Yeah.
And they assign power to more honesty to people that they perceive to be more attractive, which I consider
Whoa.
that I'm like, yeah, which
Whoa.
I'm like danger balls.
Yeah.
Then assume they give more power to people that are tall
Yeah.
in general. And I was just like, that is absolutely ridiculous. As someone who all of my attraction ranges really have to do with how intelligent a person is. And I don't want to say I'm sapiosexual because that's not
Ableist.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's,
But
but like how their mind connects to mine, right?
Sure,
And
yeah.
like I've definitely been in a room with incredibly exquisitely beautiful people and just been like, they're beautiful, but I don't feel anything, right? But to know that people just automatically just give that power to someone just because they're over 5'10" is bananas to me.
Truly, yeah, and I'm sure you deal with that on the daily.
All the time.
Yeah.
Ever since I was a kid, I was 6'1" at 13.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Yes, that's
so
that's
they just
an early growth spurt right there. Wow.
yeah, they just take away your teenager dumb at that point. They're just like, well, you can make adult decisions. You're like, really? I am
Because
not
I'm
able.
13.
I can't even drive, and you assume that I have any of the rational capabilities of an adult. This is really not fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's also possibly related to that adulthood thing, taller equals more mature or smarter or more developed potentially. There's something about that because one thing
they do that with Black women and Black girls in particular,
yeah,
Black
yeah.
children. Like there's so many studies about this, and yet we still have not gotten to a point where we are actively unpacking it.
Yes.
And I don't know when we're going to get there. I mean, it keeps coming up with, shootings and so many shootings. Yeah. And we're just not there yet. And, I do hope that in our lifetime, we'll get there.
Totally.
But we make a lot of assumptions based on how people look. And I am, if nothing, just a ripe testimony to that in every single sense of the word.
Yeah.
I just walk around just going, wow, you just assumed so much. It's just walking this planet for me is really interesting. So at least on the other end of things, I've learned to be, or I try very hard to never give in to any of those biases and always question, like, why did I think that about that person? Because I know that that's not true for me. I know that when people assume those things, it can be really harmful to my relationships with them. And so I try to, I'm always questioning.
Yeah, be as critical of your own feelings surrounding assumptions, just as you are critical of other people's assumptions of you, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not trying to be like contradictory in that way.
Yeah, it's essential, especially now in this world, right? Like we are just walking around just assuming and putting things on people all the time, and we really gotta get away from that.
Yes. Yeah,
Pronto.
100%. Yes. I have to say, me being in femdom is like really got me thinking a lot. Also, I mean, just the pandemic era of like, I'm just here alone a lot, just thinking about stuff, But I think, yeah, the more I'm kind of, the more years kind of I'm accumulating in this genre of sex work, I'm like just more closely examining all of this stuff, specifically about like gender norms and stuff like that.
I mean, porn is set up for nothing but assumptions.
Yes.
I think about this a lot. It's like you look at porn through keywords, or we've trained men in particular, unfortunately, to look at porn through keywords, and keywords that are damaging as hell. Like MILF, most of these women that are shooting MILF content are like 24.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm losing my mind. I'm like, I am so much older than that.
Like, am I a gilf? Like, I'm almost
Right.
40. I'm a gilf then?
I know, I'm almost 42. Like, what the fuck? Like, you cannot be serious. We cannot be serious about this, you know, and all of the stuff around interracial porn.
Oh,
and,
Lord. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I think about that when I am creating my content, when people are, when I've been asked to either one, give keywords to a site, right? Like
Yes.
Minivids or something like that. And I'm just like, oh my God, that is the bane of my existence. Or when people want me to describe my work and there's no real niche save for me and probably a few others. It's just like, I'm just a happy chick that wants to be naked.
Yeah, I'm me.
That's it.
So if you like me, watch my stuff and buy my
Exactly.
porn.
Like,
That's
I
very
couldn't-
much my brand too.
Yeah, I couldn't
I'm like,
possibly
if you like
point
me,
anybody else.
if you seem like you like me, then book me.
Yeah, because you're not going to find anybody else. And I think that that's like you or that's like me. And I think there are, thankfully, a group of men that get that. They totally get that.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm so thankful for them. And I'm really thankful for, like, I have this really small and awesome base of men that, like, sometimes you can see who they're following, like in other feeds and stuff. And I'm like, oh, it's so varied. And like, some of them are just like rock star women, like doing their own shit. And I love that when I see that, and then sometimes you'll get someone that follows you. Sometimes I'll look and see what they're following. And I'm like, really?
Cringy.
Like,
yeah.
Just, down the line, it's just nothing but like Black powerful femmes. And I'm like, okay, fetishist, awesome. And then I just block them because I'm like, you don't get access to me too. Like, you're already... Your dance car is full, buddy. Like, I'm not interested in being on your plate. Like, I'm not.
Totally. Yeah. And that's something I think that kind of surprised me about being a sex worker. The fact that I have this kind of ethical dilemma surrounding whether I'm perpetuating the fetishization of, ABC, whatever it is, or I'm subverting it. And to make sure that I'm making that conscious decision every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
And that's exhausting, right? And that's when...
And it's not accessible for everybody.
No, it's not. And the discourse happens, and then you're either one, sucked into it, or two, you're looking at it from afar like, I can't get embroiled in this again because
I can't get engaged. Yeah.
I need to have somewhat of a clear slate when I'm creating in order to enjoy it as well. Like, enjoying making what I make is deeply important for me. Like, having to create something that I'm not into. Like, I've tried that a few times. People make custom orders and they'll request something that I'm like, I'm not really quite into that theme. And I try it out and I'm like miserable the whole time. And that makes me sad because I want to give them, me having a great time because that's how they found me.
Yes, that's your like aesthetic or vibe. Yeah, is fun.
Yeah,
having
so
fun.
Now
ecstasy.
Yeah, so now I find myself, when people make custom order, requests and they request, and I'm like, I'm not into that.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you can continue to make suggestions, and I will tell you when you hit something on the head, or I'll make some suggestions for you. But I promise you that, like, even if I went, 5% out of my comfort zone,
You will see it. You will notice that it's...
You will know it.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's something you learn. I mean, most people, I feel like that's probably true for, like, something, a custom request you would have maybe taken when you were, like, a little BB sex worker.
Yeah, but now we're in our late 30s. We don't get
and we're like,
fucks
hell
no more.
No. We're like, no, I will not. Because you learn, developing your boundaries and what you're comfortable with and the stuff that makes you happy. Again, there's an accessibility question of, like, are you a survival sex worker? How badly do you need the money? Or also, how much emotional labor do you want to be putting into your work? So, surrounding your boundaries or surrounding, that ethical dilemma that we were talking about before. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's totally up to you.
On anyone doing any of that, I just feel grateful that I'm able to put my foot down around those things and also just be able to hold on to, like, I got into this all in the beginning, because being this naked lady online brought me joy. And so whenever I get out of that zone, when I get away from the Venn diagram of, you know, what brings me joy, what makes me money.
Yes, two very different things sometimes. Yeah.
You know, but when I slide over to like what makes me money, but like there's no joy in it, I'm like, okay, how can I need to
how can I do less of this?
Yeah.
How can I reorient
less on this? Because it'll mess up your whole day.
Yes.
Like, you know, we don't need that. Like,
yeah, when you look back at your week and you're like, oh, I feel just kind of, my cup is empty. You know, when you look back at your week and you're like, oh, yeah, well, I, you know, dealt with these difficult customers or clients, and I, you know, maybe did that thing that I wasn't too jazzed about, and I was treated this way, but I didn't just immediately block them. I still accepted the, you know, sale or session or whatever it was. You know, it's like you can look back and see, and then, you know, if you're privileged enough, which, you know, I'm a person that I will very much say that I am, just to remind people that that's not everybody's situation. You know, you can see and then readjust hopefully for the next week and be like, okay, you know, I how many times do I have to learn this lesson?
Right. And sometimes the money is fucking worth it. Sometimes it is so worth it.
A great thing to mention, you know. What I tend to do if somebody gives me say a custom video request that I'm not super jazzed about, but I'm like, hey, I throw in like an exorbitant amount of money, you know, as a quote. I'm like, hey, at that price.
Excited.
Yeah, there you go. There you have it.
This will excite me. This sparks joy.
Yeah, I will do it, you know, for sure, with gusto. Happy. You'll get that ecstatic kind of energy vibe if I'm making this.
I'm just thinking about this. That's what works.
Oh, so true. Yeah.
You know, it's a sliding scale. It is a Venn diagram of, you know, the money and the joy. And, you know, if you're privileged enough to be able to get to that point in your career, in your creative process, to be able to do that, then
to choose,
hang on to it for dear life.
Yeah, and do it. Yeah. Take advantage of that as much as you possibly can. Yeah.
Point your arrow that way if you can, especially because I think that ultimately, if we can get more people to that level, we can get more people to, you know, respect the process of what it takes to create these things. And, you know, and maybe one day more men will be more respectful. I know that is a dream.
Yeah. But like more normalized to paying a certain, like paying the premium for stuff like this. Because it's hard fucking work, and it's really specialized work, you know? You need a lot of fucking skills to do this work that you can't just get anywhere. So, I mean, you know, it's valuable, essentially. So raise your rates, pay that premium price, charge that premium price, rather. Yeah, you know?
I just think how incredible it is that, you know, at any given time, if somebody has, you know, a site and they're a sex worker, you can reach out to them and say, I want A, B, C, and D. I have, you know, this much money. Or how much does this cost to get this incredibly specialized niche
personal
thing? You know, it's like,
nuanced.
Your nails are green and your hair is pink and you're wearing this lingerie and you're listening to this song and you say these words and you say my name and then
you're using this dildo that I bought you.
Exactly.
Amazing.
You instruct me for 7 minutes to do this thing. You know, it's like, really? Because at that point when you're filming, you have all of these things in your head, right? You're like, okay, like they want the striptease and then they want a JOI and then they want to see this and these poses while I'm doing A, B, C, and D. You're like,
it's a lot.
While I'm trying to enjoy myself so that it shows through the video.
And look effortless. It's
and then
skillful.
I gotta edit it. And then I gotta watch it and edit it.
How many skills there, you know? And I did all the admin surrounding it of like booking it and processing this request. Like, you know, yes, I'm going to...
we look at our own pussies, just editing.
That was me today. Oh my God. I did custom photo set today. Sorry, just bang my mic. I did a custom photo set today that was exactly that. I'm like, how many times? I'm like...
photo sets, yeah.
Oh, the photo sets.
Like, I just need to Photoshop out this one hair.
I know. This one fleck of dust. Like this one lint, just little fleck.
bring out your little brush tool while
Yeah.
you're cursing. Like,
How many
looking
times
at
have I been
everything.
in a times a 1,000 zoom on my nipple? You know, like if I could count the times, if I had a penny.
Really, I feel so lucky because like my husband does a lot of editing and filming for me, and like he does a lot of like the super pro treatment of like
Yeah.
our like the pre-screens and all of the stuff that I think is really fun because I want all of my stuff to look like 80s porn. Like I just care
Yeah.
about that really deeply. Like regardless of whether my audience likes it or not, like I do it because I love it. And you know, there's times where he's just like, gotta go edit the porn again, and then it's just nothing but like seeing screens of my pussy for like, you know, half an hour because he's like doing this crazy trippy effect with it, and I'm like, you know what, I just bless you.
You know what? I
Because-
love you.
right?
You know
Just-
what? I just love you.
I just love this about us, you know.
I was gonna ask you, I was gonna be like, who's on your team? Because like, it looks like you've got like a fucking champion of a video editor doing your stuff.
Yeah,
creating
yeah,
all this like such a strong voice, artistic voice in the way they're edited. You know.
Yeah, we have a really amazing conversation like set up when we are shooting. You know, it's like, okay, I want it to look like this, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about it a couple days before where I'm like, okay, we're gonna shoot, obviously it's pandemic times, right? So it's like, oh, we're gonna shoot in the bedroom, like I'm gonna have, you know, these sheets on the bed, I'm wearing this lingerie, you know, I want it to feel like this. And then I kind of give him like the mood board of emotions, or you know, different descriptive words to tell him like what I want this to feel like.
Nice.
And then, you know, I find all of the music, and then we will film. And usually I don't find the music until after. Sometimes we'll just shoot, like I listen to a lot of Ministry. And so like that's usually what I'm moving to. And then I just edit music on top of that.
Another
you know, or
thing,
it's like
yeah.
or it's Zeppelin, or it's like Peaches, or you know, it's like really random stuff. But you know, so we'll shoot and it'll be a lot of, okay, so like I want the rolling shot up to my ass, and then I'm gonna do yada yada yada, and we'll just talk about it, shoot, you know, it takes
Yeah.
a couple of hours to make our stuff, and then the editing process is really great because I let him, and I don't he goes through and kind of finds the juiciest parts and starts to create the narrative based off of what I've already described for him.
Yeah.
And then he'll kind of set it together, and then I'll look at it and then make editing choices around that too. Like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if like I faded here, or if this was slowed down by 20%? And so we have the same vocabulary around these things. It's just he's so quick at editing that I could edit these things myself, but it would, oh my God. Like I was editing these things myself, and it would take ages. And now editing with him is just, it's like next
dream.
level. It's just fun.
That's
Like, it's
lovely.
just fun that we just get to do that, right? And I'm like, oh, and this music, and he understands my brain around choreography, where like I want things to hit on a certain beat, on
Of
a certain
course.
tap, a certain
Yeah.
a snap or a whip or whatever. And so he'll do that instinctively now and find it in the video, and I'm like, oh my God, like even though you have to slow this down over here, like can we just cut some of it off so like we can hit that moment that you have there, like don't touch that, you know. And that's really really fun. And then we just get to do all of the stupid stuff around like title screens and stuff, which literally none of my clients or fans care about that shit.
No, this sounds very like you need to do this.
I need to do it. It's our soul fulfilling purpose, you know.
Exactly.
And then we brought that into like my cooking show because we wanted to do something that was PG.
Yeah,
And so we get to like also do that process, you know, except, you know, less around like, okay, and then zoom in on my pussy. Instead it's like, oh, and then, you know, you get this really cool shot of this cake with my nails around it, you know, looking very retro. So they're translatable skills. It works really well.
That's so lovely, and what a lovely thing for you to do together. Just an activity for a husband and wife to do together. That sounds like absolutely fantastic. That's so nice.
It is really nice. You know, I thought that like filming myself I can do, and I've done a lot of it, and
Sure.
you know, it's different. Like you'll get kind of a different vibe. Like I'll fuck around a lot more on the camera with the
Yeah.
camera if I'm just shooting by myself, because I'm just rolling around. Like it doesn't matter. I'm not wasting anybody else's time.
Yeah. overshoot like crazy when you're by yourself.
But and that there's value to that, and sometimes I just get in a mood and I'm like, oh, well, I'm just gonna do this, and like he has a day job, like he's a functioning
adult
human with a civvy job, so it's not like he can always shoot me when I get like the wild hair in my ass to do it. So and then we just for things that are more formal that need like definitely more setup, like a cooking show, it turns out is way harder to shoot than naked lady stuff.
It just turns out. I can imagine.
It's like more technical in a way, it's like, oh, you have to show all of these different, it's like the learning curve around that has been so different because of like microphones and everything. So it's very fascinating, but it's
amazing. Fun. Well, oh my God. So this has been so lovely. We should wrap this up. I'm so very pleased to have talked to you today. It's lovely. But before
it's good to connect.
I know. First time we actually talked to each other. Been a big fan for a long time. So this has just been, I've just been able to fangirl, and thank you for letting me do that for you and to you. Of
course. Thanks for asking me. It's like I just think you're bee's knees.
Bee's knees. I'm actually a huge fan of bees, so that's one of the highest compliments I could receive. Before I let you go, can you tell us where all the ways we can give you money, follow you?
The easiest way to find me is on one of my sites. I have kind of an aggregator site that has, my OnlyFans, Patreon, and my baking show. So all the different flavors, from PG to X, destination Devereaux.com. And Devereaux is DEV as in Victor, ERAUX.com. So it doesn't have that extra French E in there. I'm not that fancy. And then, OnlyFans, which is Golden Glamazon, and Twitter is where, like, if you want to, like, kind of see my vibe, interact with me, that's where you're going to find me, is twitter.com/Sydney Devereaux.
Yeah,
and
once
Sydney
again,
is SYDNI.
Once again, you're a fantastic Twitter follow. So at the very least, very least
find me there, and occasionally I put up photos and all that stuff. But if like people really want to see me naked, they should go and give me money.
Buy some shit. 100%. For myself, everyone, you should know by now, I'm at the Lady Pim 1 on Twitter, at the Lady Pim on Insta, at the Bedpost Podcast on Insta. We have a Patreon, it's the Bedpost Show. We have a YouTube, it's the Bedpost Sex Show. We have an email, it's the bedpostsexshow@gmail.com. But if it's domination related, please email me at ladypim@protonmail.com. Before I go, I like to give a shout out to the lovely lady that does all the original music. She's an amazing musician for the podcast. All original music by Stephanie Copeland. Check out her stuff at stephcopelandmusic.com. Last but not least, the Golden Glamazon herself, Sydney Devereaux. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation.
And thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. And thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you next time with another fun and sexy guest here on this Bedpost Podcast. Talk about sex and sexuality. Get fucked. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast has been brought to you by the Sonar Network. Sonar. Fracture prints your digital photos directly onto glass, making your favorite moments come alive in vivid color. Hand-assembled in the USA, Fracture glass prints are a unique and beautiful way to display and share your favorite moments. Simply upload your photo at FractureMe.com, select your size, and your glass print will be shipped to you, ready to hang with just one screw. Use code POD15 to get 15% off your order today. That's code POD15 at FractureMe.com.
Been thinking about McDonald's all day. Can't get it off my mind. I can already taste it. Ooh, got my mind on my mouth and my mouth ready for some Mickey D's deal.
There's a deal for every moment at McDonald's.
Right now, get 2 of your favorites for just $3.50. Mix and match a classic McChicken, a hot and spicy McChicken, or a juicy McDouble. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with combo meal. Single item at regular price.